Thank you so very much for joining us again for another week of She Inspires, where we aim to uplift, empower, and inspire you. Today we have with us a special guest, Achie, McEachern. Say hi to everyone for me, Achie.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, I'm just going to give you a quick mini bio of Achie. I met her many years ago in Fort Lauderdale, and I tell you, when she walked into the room, her presence was known. She has such a bright personality, so much wisdom in her, and I'm so glad that she decided to join us today. I am going to go ahead and go right into her bio. Achie is an entrepreneur, speaker, and certified coach for women. Her specialty and her mission is to help women to identify and debunk the limiting beliefs that cause them to hide from their awesomeness in order to reprogram their thinking for wholeness and success. She is also the co-creator of the podcast Behind This Woman, and also the creator of the podcast, I Am Achie.
Yes.
So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and let her have the floor. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here. Mimi, thank you for inviting me. This opportunity is so special. I live in Naples, Florida. I'm from Atlanta, but I live in Naples, Florida, which is the south part of Florida on the far east side of the country. And of course, you are on the far west side of the country in California. And, I thought about it. I said, we are going through some really perilous times right now. But what I know for sure is that God doesn't waste anything. He uses every single thing, right, for our good, even in the midst of tragedy and even in the midst of upset, right? And I thought about it. I said, well, the possibility of Mimi flying me from Naples, Florida to California right now, it's likely, but she probably wouldn't be doing this right now. So me having the opportunity to be in front of you virtually and the opportunities that have been created, it warms my heart. So I am extremely thankful to be before you guys and speaking to you all. All right, so let's hop in. So today we're talking about building your spiritual muscles and listening to your whisper, right? So let's talk about like spiritual muscles. So I know I live in Florida. It's most of the time summer. It feels like summertime all the time here. It's like right now, 85, 87 degrees. I have friends who live in Cleveland, Chicago, New York. It's a lot colder there, but it's really warm here. So it always feels like summer. But I remember when I lived in Georgia, we had 4 distinct seasons. And I've always heard that a summer body is built during the winter months, right? And when you don't think about it in the winter, if you're not really into working out, you don't think about it. And then when you get into summertime and it's time to wear your tank tops, it's time to wear your shorts, it's time to get on the beach and go to the pool, and you have to put those swimming suits on, it is very, very clear who decided to work out during the winter months and who did not. And the reason I bring that up is because the times that we are in right now remind me that we are in the summertime. Like we're in the spring season, but it's like spiritually speaking and what's happening with the pandemic, it's like we're in a summer season. And the reason why I said that is because what everyone is feeling, what everyone is experiencing, people's anxiety is going up. People are turning more to alcohol. People are going through higher depression. People are having more marital problems right now because you're in the house all day together, right? You're realizing that your kids, you may not like the fact that they're home all day. You thought you did, but you don't anymore. And people are breaking down mentally right now. And what's being revealed is the state of how we behave spiritually, right? Because when we usually go through our day-to-day lives, when we're working, or taking the kiddos to school, or we're, fixing dinner or running our businesses, we're very busy doing and we're not being. So it makes us a little bit numb. So we don't realize, okay, how am I really feeling? Am I really properly coping with, how I truly deeply feel mentally, how I really feel spiritually with my relationship with God? Am I really dealing with this, or am I just making my spiritual practices on Sundays or on Wednesday nights, or making the practice of dealing with myself mentally just whenever something goes terribly wrong. So right now it's like the curtains have been pulled back and we are all being revealed. Our mindsets, how we think about ourselves, how we think about our families, what we really feel about our jobs. I mean, I have people who they're like, you know, I really don't like the fact that I'm not working right now, but I actually realize that I don't even like going to my job. But you don't even realize that you don't appreciate or love your job until you don't have to go to it anymore. You're like, wow, this is a bit of freedom that I didn't realize that I really needed. So it's very important right now that even though we're in a season where we are, we're being revealed, so to speak, that we continue to build our spiritual muscles. And what I mean by that is getting quiet, right? Really getting quiet and understanding where we are, understanding where we want to be, understanding what God wants to do in our lives, and then taking the steps forward to do that. So part of doing that, even in your relationships and your relationships with your family, with your children. I know even from my husband and I, we run our own businesses and we live at home. We work for the most part from our house, but it seems like now, since we had the stay-at-home order and we only can go to like the grocery store, that's like the new outing. The new Friday night outing is going to the grocery store. You put on your clothes, you get dressed up, and you go to the grocery store. That's like the date night for us, right? But we realize, you know, we really do love each other, but man, we kind of need a little bit of a break. Like, we love our home. Thank God we have a backyard and a playground for our little one. And he bought the biggest blow up pool for our little man the other day. But it's like, man, this is really revealing some things. And it's putting the mirror in front of us. It's putting the mirror in front of him. It's putting the mirror in front of me. Things that maybe I thought I was working on that I was just kind of okay with. It's like, well, you know what, Achie? Your mindset is a little jaded in that area. And when I say listen to your whisper, there's two things that you have to do to listen to your whisper. And the two things you have to do is, number one, you have to believe that God really has something to say to you. So for me, for many years, I thought that if it didn't come from an external voice, it really wasn't a message for me. So I really relied more so on other people to tell me what they saw, you know, for my future, or what they saw God doing for my life, or maybe what has been done in my family already. And I didn't really tune in to hear from myself. And if I didn't hear it from someone else, then it didn't exist for me. And when I did have these inner nudges, I just thought that was just, I don't know, I just thought it was my flesh, or I just thought that it was just a wild imagination. I never thought that meant anything. But I realized that God's wisdom rests in the whisper. And when he talks to you, I realized that when he would speak to me, and when someone else would come up and say, well, this is what, you know, I have a message for you, or, you know, I really see this happening, or, you know, have you ever thought about this? It was always confirmation to what I was already hearing. And what I realized is that he speaks to us first. I didn't know that before. I thought he spoke to others first and then kind of told me. But he whispers to us first. And a lot of times when we ignore that, then it's like, oh, okay, let me get a human voice to remind you. So when someone comes to you and they say, oh, well, you know, have you ever thought about this? And you would be really great at doing this. It's like, you know what? I've been secretly dreaming about that. And he's always nudging us. He's always moving us. He's always whispering, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? And so when I really tuned in to say, you know, you really are speaking to me. And then understanding the second thing the second thing is trusting myself. And I say that because I was taught not to do that. Like, we do put our trust in God, but I was taught that we don't trust ourselves. And what I mean by that is, I have to trust that God made me awesome. Okay. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am awesome. I am amazing. Like, that's how God made us. I believe that we're made out of the same threads of God as God. He made us in his image, right? So if he's an amazing creator, I'm an amazing creator. If he can come up with amazing ideas, why can't I? And so I have to trust and understand that what he speaks to me, I have the ability and I have the power and I have the wherewithal to walk that out. And for years, I battle with that and I struggle with that. And I listened to the opinions of other people that told me that you can't do this. You're not enough to do this. You're too much to do this. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional right now, but I know that holds so many people back. And if I can tell you anything, I would say that you're made like God. And the threads that run through him, run through you, and you can do anything. And if he has put it in your heart to do, I don't care what the culture tells you. I don't care what the social norms tell you. I don't care what you've seen or what you have not seen previously. You're here to break all of those barriers. And right now, even in this crazy pandemic, we have to use this time. Yes, use the time to rest and use the time to reflect, but use the time to really dig deep in who you're really supposed to be. Don't get, right now, we have the privilege of not being so caught up in everything. Like, turn the TV off. You have to turn social media off, turn it off. Like, to me, there's a reason why there is a global pause. It's like the earth was begging for it. And I'm not going to negate the fact that people are hurting. There are people who are hurting. I personally know of people who are dealing with this pandemic in a crazy way. And my prayers and my heart go out to them. But there are also a lot of us who are really healthy right now. And a lot of us who can really make a difference. I've never heard the birds tweet as loud as they are now. They are they are loud. I mean, in like a little bit of a rude way, like it's 8 o'clock at night. We're trying to go to sleep. Like, the birds are loud. They're flying low. The parks, the squirrels, you see them more. It's like nature. They even said the earth is turning slower on its axis now. I saw a picture of India. They said this is the first time in over 25, 30 years they've been able to see the Himalayas because the smog is clear. China, the clouds are, they can see the blue sky now. They haven't been able to see it in a while. I'm sure in LA, the smog has cleared as well. So it's like, even though we are dealing with tragedy right now, I think that this is a time for us to work on ourselves and really hear what it is that we need to be doing with our lives. We have exactly what it takes to come out of this. We have what it takes to bring others up with us. And hold on for 1 second. I just lost my train of thought. Oh yes. Something that growing up, I didn't have the freedom. So I'll say that being a believer, I didn't think there was freedom in believing. So I would put myself in this box. I would put myself in this huge box. And I just got to the point where I said, you know what? This box is preventing me from fully living out who I'm supposed to be. And when I would look at like just your people who did amazing things in the world, no matter what their beliefs are, they did amazing things in the world. I kind of studied them. I said, what is the common denominator? The common denominator is that they trust, no matter what they believed, they first knew that, yes, there is a God, right? And they trusted that God was always speaking through them, leading them and guiding them to their next move. And you can't be afraid to go against what maybe your family is doing, or maybe the people in your close-knit circle is doing. You have to be okay with breaking out of that. I love my family. I love my close friends. And I know that there are things that are put in me that maybe I didn't see them walk out. There's things that I didn't see happen, in my family. I didn't see the women in my family are extremely strong. They're amazing women, but I only saw up to a certain point. And I battled for so many years with what I saw in myself. I said, okay, I had this big, huge, audacious vision, and everyone may not have that, but I'm talking about me. But it's not what I see. So what do I do with this? It's not what I'm taught. What do I do with this? And then I got married, and I love my husband. And my husband, he's a visionary. He's a huge thinker. And I had another conflict, because my conflict was, well, my husband has this vision and I'm only supposed to serve my husband's vision. And I have these skills. I have, I have these traits that I can use. I have these things that I've learned in college and things that I learned running my dad's business. I'm extremely logistical. I'm operational, even in our current company, our current family business. I'm an operations manager. So I am like logistical. I know how to run it. But for years, I was just growing kind of silently frustrated. Like, okay, Achie, what is happening here? Like, what is really happening to you? And it's like, it was the grumble. It was the rumble. It was the there's something in there. And as women, one of the limiting beliefs, I teach a lot about limiting beliefs, and that's something that I teach with I coach my clients through. One of the main limiting beliefs that I had to work through was the fact that my husband has a big vision, and so do I. And I battled with that. God, I battled with that for so many years, because I just felt like, well, what happens to his vision? And then what happens to mine? We're only allowed to have one in the house. But it was causing so much frustration in me. And it's like, I understand the concept, but did God put these things in me? And because I got married, I no longer can do them. So when I leave this earth and I stand before God and he says, what did you do? What I gave you? I said, oops, I got married. And my husband always has pushed me. Thank God he's not a jealous man. He's always, babe, do your thing. Do what's in you. Like, you can do this. Whatever's in you, you do it. Like, what I have going on, yes, I know you want to help me, and you can still help, and whatever you need to do to make sure that that comes to fruition as well. But I had to realize that I had the capacity to not do one or the other, but to do one and the other. And God gave us that capacity, right? So for me, that came because I'm married, and I had to kind of work through that. Some of you may not be married. And I'll say, if you're not married, if I was 20 years, if I could talk to my 20-year-old self, what I would say to my 20-year-old self is study yourself. Study who God has made you to be. Like the intricacies of you, what you like, what you dislike, what makes you tick, your natural inclinations. Study your personality. Study what makes you happy. Study what makes you sad. Study what makes you angry, like those deep rumblings that make you angry. What is it that gives you, now, I'm not saying someone just, says something ugly to you, but like that righteous indignation. Like what is it? What is that? What is the source of that? What is the cause of that? Know who you are. Know who you are. That is the biggest thing, because once you know who you are, then you can move forward with confidence. And even if the person who stands next to you has, a similar skill set, they're different. And you realize, okay, they're not my competition. I am my competition. I am the one that, needs to sharpen my gift and sharpen who I am, because if me and Mimi are sitting next to each other and we both do the exact same thing, Mimi is uniquely different because Mimi is Mimi. Mimi has her life. She has her experiences. She has her upbringing. She has her children, her husband. I am me. I have the things that I've gone through, the things that I've seen. And I think that right now that this is the time more than ever before. Yes, rest. Yes, relax. Get the sleep that you have not been able to get. If you do not have a non-essential job, if you have an essential job, you need to be at the hospitals and grocery stores, you got to work that out. Your spare time. But if you have the time to, and you're well, and you're physically well, I encourage you to take the time to find out what God has put into you. I don't think the globe is pausing for nothing. Remember what I said in the beginning, God does not waste anything. This is not just happening. And yet the unfortunate part, like I said, is people are really sick and people have really passed away from this. Excuse me. But this is not happening for nothing. He's using every bit of it, every single inch he's using for our good. And it is our responsibility to find out you know, what is it that is trying to teach us? In situations like this, I used to always question, well, why? Why is this happening? Why? Now I'm not so concerned with the why as I am concerned with the what is this here to teach me? What lesson am I supposed to get out of this? How do I walk stronger, bolder, more fierce out of this? How do I embrace my identity in this? How do I come out of this stronger? God, who am I supposed to impact? Who am I supposed to be speaking to? Am I supposed to be, or if I'm supposed to be writing, like I'm a speaker, I speak. As you can tell, I run my mouth a lot. I talk. When I was in school, I made good grades, but at the bottom, it always said, Achie talks too much. But now I get paid to do it. So you know what? So that's the thing. I was always told I talk too much. I was always told I ask too many questions. That's when I say study and learn who you really are, who God really made you to be. Because all of those traits, I asked too many questions. I always had a rebuttal. I wanted to know more. I had a lot to say. And it's like, okay, well, those things all have made me who I am. I think about my best friend. She's not as vocal as I am. She's more of an introvert. She's very reflective. She loves to write. She's been writing. I've known her since I was 11. She's been writing since then. So her gifting maybe isn't doing something like this or being on the stage or whatever, but she loves to write. She wants to be a New York Times bestselling author. But guess what? She also works a job. So in her spare time, that is what she's working on. Right now, she's working from home, but in her spare time at home, it's like, let me work on my blog. Let me work on my writings. Let me do some journaling. I call it either journaling, I also call it writing with God. So when I write with God, I take my journal out, and literally for me, I'm writing down things, and it's like I then hear his voice. So I'm writing things, maybe how I'm feeling or what I'm dealing with, and it's like my writing turns into his answer for me. It becomes very therapeutic. It turns into direction. I can look in my journal, things I've written, and it's like, whoa, how did this come out? So it's like, however you allow God to come through you and flow through you so that you can identify really who you are and really who you're supposed to be, and really not allowing any external situations or any external person to take you away from that. And just build those muscles. Practice listening to him. Practice, I call it the whisper, and then he gives you inspired action, right? So it can be an example. I just did a podcast episode about this, but an example, I just started a third podcast. I Am Achie podcast. This is a very new podcast. I'm on my 5th episode, but I released 4 episodes last week. So it's just 2 weeks old. But several months ago, it was just in me. It's time to start another podcast. It was just a little whisper. And I fought it because I'm like, I've had 2 other podcasts before. I don't have anything else to say. Nobody else is going to want to listen to what I have to say. They're going to be like, let me guess, Achie started a new podcast. You know, so it's like you have all these thoughts. No one's thinking any of that. And if they do, who cares? But just stop, and it's just stopping you from pursuing what you need to pursue and doing what you need to do. So I finally said, you know what? Okay, I was talking to a friend. I said, I have a confession. You know, I really want to start another podcast. And she's like, it's amazing, Achie. Like, this is great. Like, speakers need to have podcasts. Like, that's just kind of what you need to do as a speaker. And you speak, start your podcast. Let's start, drafting and strategizing. And I'm like, well, I feel bad because I have the Behind This Woman podcast, which is amazing. It's still up. It's like 24 episodes. Go listen to it. Shameless plug. But I have Mimi's laughing at me. So I have that podcast going, and it was a podcast that I started with my best friend. So I was really just I was hesitant because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my best friend is going to think I'm giving up on our thing. I'm doing my own thing. Like I'm just abandoning her, and I never want to do that. Like I was so hesitant about it, right? Again, letting the external things kind of control the whisper. So I finally said, you know what? I'm going to start the podcast. And she sent me a message like a couple weeks later. And part of the Behind This Woman brand, which is still very active, we have it. It's a podcast and it's a blog where it's like an online community. Her and I both write on the blog, and we also have plans of bringing other women to kind of share their stories as well. And her thing is, well, I'm starting my own blog soon. And I was so excited and I was through the moon because she knew that, okay, I'm a writer. I need to start my own blog. Like, I need to get my content out into the world, like what I have to say, the stories I have to share, I need to get out. You know, that's what I need to do. And I was excited because she's an amazing writer, but it also freed me. Like, it's good that it freed you, Achie, but it shouldn't have taken that, you know, to do what I told you to do. And just 2 weeks of episodes, I have gotten so many messages from people. I've gotten messages and emails and text messages of people just like, you have no idea how much this has helped me. And it's just me talking into a microphone, guys. You know what I mean? And it's just a very small example, but you don't know, like a friend of mine, she called me the other day, I mean, in tears. I mean, like in tears, broke my heart. And God's whisper said, send her this particular episode. She listened to it like 3 or 4 times. And it's like, you don't know how much that helped me. Like, I just didn't know how to mentally navigate through what I was dealing with my family. And this really helped give me some perspective. So that is the small example, but I'm saying that because the whisper and then the inspired action of start something, do something. You don't know who you're helping. You don't know who's waiting on you. I could be saying something again. Mimi could be saying something, but it's people who will only listen to Mimi. It's people who will only listen to you. It's people who will only listen to me, that they are ready for your voice. They're ready for what you specifically have to say and the way that you have to say it through your experiences. So it may not be speaking. It may not be writing. You may have a business you want to start. It may be a dream job you have, right? So another story, I have a friend, I saw a post the other day, and she's a counselor at a school. And of course, right now, schools are not in because of COVID-19, but she loves her job so much. She's a school counselor. I want to say for middle school. I think it's for middle school, could be elementary. And when I think deeply about that, what if she was a doctor? Now, there's nothing wrong with being a doctor. But what if she was a doctor because her family told her that this is what we do in our family? Our family, we become doctors. And what if she hated being a doctor? So now you have a miserable doctor working on you, right? And who wants a miserable doctor working on them? I'm just saying. I don't want a miserable doctor working on me. But she absolutely loves her job. And I thought about it. I said, that was her vision. Her vision was to go to school, to get her degree and become a school counselor. And who's to say that she doesn't stop a child from killing themselves? Who's to say that she doesn't help a child with an eating disorder? Who's to say that she doesn't help them if they have a mental disorder or a mental problem, to get the help that they need? It's like you doing exactly what God has put into your heart, and listening to that changes the trajectory of generations. It changes generations. God just doesn't deal in the now. He doesn't just deal with you. He's dealing with, when he deals with me, he's dealing with my son. He's dealing with my grandkids. He's dealing with my great grandkids, because what I become and what I teach him and what I pour into him and what I show him is what's going to pass down generation to generation. And what happens? Families are nothing but members of society, right? So we're made up of bodies of families. So if something as small as listening to your whisper, taking inspired action will change you, can change your family, can change somebody else, can change how somebody else raises their children, which can change what their grandkids see. The world is changed just by you saying, let me sit still and just hear what I'm supposed to be doing. Let me quiet myself. And now is the perfect time for that. Let me quiet myself and say, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be contributing? Big or small, it doesn't have to be something large in grandeur. whatever it is, just let me make the difference that I'm supposed to make. I'm not called to take care of the world. I'm called to take care of me and the tribe that's called to me. And I am not called to go out and try to grab people up. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. And then those who are called to me will come. But that takes you exercising the muscle of trusting that God has something to say to you and to say through you, and then trusting yourself enough to say, I've got what it takes. I have what it takes. Because for years, I knew the scripture and I went to church and I knew all the things, but I didn't have the self-confidence. And I would say, you know, I can do all things through Christ with me, and I can do this, and this is fine. But I really didn't do the mental work that I needed to do to really have the confidence to say, no, you really can do this. You really can. Whatever it is, you really can. And so you start small and then you let it grow big. Or if it doesn't grow big, if it stops wherever, you know, you see it stopping, or wherever, you know, it could be a school or a job or whatever it is, or your family, whatever it is. But don't ignore that. Do not ignore that. And just allow, like when people, like if let's say I'm using Mimi because I'm looking at her beautiful face right now. So every time I think of my examples, I'm like, Mimi. So let's say, you know, Mimi comes up to you and she says something like, you know, it's on my heart to tell you this. Or I just feel like you would be great at this. Like most of the time, that's going to be a confirmation. It's going to be a confirmation. It's going to be what you already know to be true about yourself. So you just have to trust that. So I think I covered everything. I went on a little bit of a tangent there, there for a minute, but just trust the process. Trust the process. And I have a little assignment for you. So I want you to gonna have you do some journaling. I want you to do 4 things. I want you to write to your 10-year-old self. If you could write to your 10-year-old self, what would you say to your 10-year-old self? And I think about that like my son, he'll be 3 in a couple of months. Children are so intuitive. They are so spirit-led. They are so in tune. I mean, he can barely talk, but when I tell you the boy is in tune, I'm like, whoa, and they know what they need. It amazes me that he knows what his body needs. And I'm not saying like, okay, I want you to eat your broccoli and you're not eating your broccoli. But it's like, for instance, the other day he wasn't feeling so well, and we were kind of like, well, what's going on? You know, whatever. And we take something called elderberry syrup. It's like a natural alternative to kind of help fight off things. And he knew exactly, like he wasn't feeling well. He told us, berry, elderberry. And my husband and I are like, we have it in the fridge, but we didn't even think that we should have given this to you. And that may seem minute, but it's like, if he's almost 3 and he knows, okay, this is what I need for me to be well. As we get older, we're taught and we're trained to mute that. So I want you to dig back into that. So if you could write a letter to your 10-year-old self, what would you say to your 10-year-old self? And then if you could write or talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say to your 18-year-old self? Okay. And let me keep going. If you could talk to your current self, what would you say to your current self? And the thing is that we already know. God's already telling us. We just have to get quiet. So I want you to write a letter to and this is long or short, doesn't matter. Your 10-year-old self, your 18-year-old self, your current self. And let me give you an example. My current self, I would say, you just keep going, Achie. You keep going. You keep pushing. Continue getting quiet. Continue following the nudges. Continue doing the work. Just continue. And then what would I tell my future self? Because one of my favorite scriptures is Jeremiah 29:11 and Ephesians 1:4. Jeremiah 21:11 talks about how God knows the plans he has for you. He knows that he wants to prosper you. He wants you to have a great life. He wants you to be abundant in life, right? And then Ephesians 1:4 talks about how he knew you before the creation of the world. So before this earth was formed, he already knew who you were. So he already knew you were fabulous. He already knew you were awesome. Yeah, life beats us up a little bit, but he already knew you were all that. So I want you to write to your future self. What would you say to your future self? Where you are right now, what would you say to him or her? If we have any guys listening, what would you say to him or her? And what do you see for your future self? The uninhibited, like when you break down all these barriers and all these walls, all these expectations, all these boxes, all these constraints, the highest, best version of yourself, what do you see for that person? And then you have to decide right now, like I said, just keep going. What do you have to do, and what do you have to continue or stop doing right now to become that future person? Because all realms of possibility are available. Okay, we've all seen people we haven't seen in a long time. We've seen some and said, you've had a rough life. And then we've seen some and said, man, you look the same. You look great. You look the same. You haven't aged a bit. And then we see some and say, wow, you look amazing. Like, you look like you aged backwards. Like, what are you doing? So it's all realms of possibility are available, but it all depends on listening and trusting and knowing that God has something to say to us and he has something to say through us. So trust your whisper. And that's all I have. I haven't even checked my time. That's all I have though, Mimi.
Thank you so much, Achie, for that. We had a lot of good stuff there. We had a lot of stuff that we can chew on for the next week or so.
Awesome.
Hearing that voice, hearing God's whisper and identifying with his voice and walking out what he is saying, getting rid of all of the limiting beliefs about the people around us, the things around us, what people have spoken to us. It doesn't matter. It matters what God has spoken. And we walk that out because we're trusting and being still enough to hear what he's saying.
Yes.
So I thank you for giving us that today. I thank you for, your stories. I thank you for your wisdom in all of the stories. I felt like I was in your living room. And
yes, good.
Having girl time. But I really, really appreciate you. And I thank you so much for taking time out to be a part of She Inspires. Now, for those of you who are on here, if you want to follow her, you can go to iamachie.com. That's IAMACHIE.
Yes.
And she also has her podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and one more.
Stitcher.
So you can go ahead and follow her on there. I've been tuning in. I've subscribed already. So she has another follower. So if you want to follow and support her, please be sure to do so and hear some more wisdom from her. So again, we thank you for coming, and I pray God's blessing upon you and your family. I pray his protection over you, and I pray God blesses you tremendously in your endeavors that he has called you to do, because I know you're going to be reaching many people because of what God has placed in you. So again, thank you.